FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. Today is 10/13/20. Well, our good friend Matt Nye is with us from the Republican Liberty Caucus. You find them at rlc.org. And we're trying not to talk about politics too much. It's too polarizing and such. But we'd like to get your opinion, and we got to cover it a little bit, because if we don't, then we're going to be accused of being out of touch. So it's one of those things that you can't win. But Matt, it's always great to have you on. So election, what are you feeling here?
Yeah, thanks, Kerry. Appreciate the opportunity to be on with you again. I am cautiously optimistic that the president will win re-election. I think, obviously pretty much every force in the universe is lined up against him except for the actual grassroots voters. You've got the media folks, you've got big tech, a lot of very powerful forces. The pollsters, appear to be all working in concert against him and for Biden. So I'm hoping that he pulls another upset like he did in 2016 and pulls it out. Yeah,
well, I wrote an article called "The Emperor Has No Cortex." What's your take on Biden's cognitive decline? And I say decline, it's irrefutable. The guy is losing it here.
I agree. I honestly, that's probably one of the things I find the most disturbing about this entire cycle is you got, like you say, you have a guy that's clearly got issues. I'm not a medical expert, but it certainly looks like, some sort of dementia or some, he's like you say, he can't string a couple of coherent thoughts together in sequence. And that's what's so amazing to me is anybody that could vote. I mean, that guy is going to have, assuming he actually lives and is sworn in, right? He's going to have the keys to the nuclear suitcase. I mean, it's just fascinating. Like you have to really, really hate President Trump to be willing to essentially vote for, what's basically a blank slate. I mean, I think obviously the strategy is he's a placeholder for Kamala, and that's, but no, I agree with you. I don't think there's any question that he's got some serious mental issues there.
About those nuclear codes, if the guy can't remember where he is or what office he's running for, how the heck is he going to remember the codes for the nuclear football?
Well, or like you say, who are we bombing, right?
Yeah.
like if he can't remember what state he's in, how does he know he's? I guess you're just blindly, totally trusting the generals or whoever to advise him properly. But no, it's that's honestly the most fascinating thing to me about this whole cycle is how you could possibly be so anti-Trump that that doesn't factor into your decision making. So.
Yeah, I'd like to know the answer to that, too. It's like they went and they grabbed somebody from the nursing home. We can talk about all of Biden's weaknesses as a candidate from his nonstop stream of gap consciousness, right? Everything he does is a gaffe, to his policy being literally a captive of the credit card companies, his entire career as a senator, a lot of things. But we're like past all that now. This is a question of guy is not competent, and then he's going to be gone. In fact, a study, a poll said that somewhere around 60% of the population believes that if he's elected, he would not be able to serve out one term. And then we're left with right. Who. And without getting into all the skeletons from her closet, let's just say Tulsi Gabbard really eviscerated her during the debate. I think it was the second or third debate. I don't know. There were so many of them. Totally eviscerated Kamala to the point where her popularity hit a whopping 8%. And Vice President Pence just took the baton from Tulsi and totally destroyed that woman.
Yeah, and again, talking about the judgment in terms of who they put up as the nominee. Like, to me, and I guess it's because I lean obviously more, libertarian, Republican, individual rights, all that. But of all the Democrat contenders, Tulsi Gabbard was she's phenomenal. Like, it's amazing to me how do you go from that slate of potentials to Biden and Kamala Harris? It's just fascinating. So.
Yeah, well, none of them were real candidates. That's what I said from the get-go. But I don't think they wanted Biden. When push came to shove to getting rid of Bernie, they were left with Biden. He was the only one that could really do it after they circled all the wagons. Biden came in 5th in New Hampshire. No presidential candidate has ever come in 5th in New Hampshire and won the election.
Right.
So, yeah,
I think it's right. If you were wondering if the fix was in for Biden, I think we all know the answer. So, no question.
Well, the fix was in for Kamala, but she's a horrible candidate, and he's not much better. What about the enthusiasm that they're drawing? They're getting, crushing crowds of 10 to 20 people, probably half of whom have been paid off by the campaign.
Sure. No, I think that's, again, if that's any indication of who will win, obviously Trump's got that going away. So I've been amazed by the turnout at these the boat parades and the, like you say, all the different, Bikers for Trump, all these different groups that are doing these massive rallies and demonstrations. And then, it's such a stark contrast, between that and the Biden events where it's, literally can't even fill a room. And like you said, if you do fill the room, it's because you paid them to be there. So. Yeah,
and these rallies that are happening are spontaneous. Right. There was one rally for Biden in Miami. They got 15 cars to participate. On the same day, they had 30,000 vehicles, according to the Miami Police Department, out there, Latinos for Trump and against communism.
But remember, he's a racist, though. Remember, he's the racist.
I forgot that. Thanks for reminding me there, Matt.
That's what's amazing. He's right. He's anti-Hispanic. He wants to deport them all. So yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing that the competition is this bad. And well, I guess we're just going to find out with the mail-in balloting and the fraud that's potentially could be taking place. My gut feeling, though, is there aren't very many people willing to go to jail for Joe Biden as there were for Hillary Clinton.
Well, and especially if you factor in, like we just said earlier, if you don't even think he's going to make it through the first term, he's not going to be there to protect you, right? I think a lot of people aren't sure he'll make it through the first couple of years. And so, I have to think that factors into the equation, too. So.
Yeah. Totally agree. Any indications from your neck of the woods or from what you've been watching where you think it's going to go?
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next.
With multi-million ounce potential at its Yellowknife District project, Goldterra is a company on the move. You'll find them at goldterracorp.com, and their ticker on the OTC is TRXXF. On the TSX, it's YGT. The management team is headed up by near legend Gerald Hanaton of Detour Gold fame, who's convinced that Yellowknife's potential is far greater than its current 735,000 ounce resource. The mine benefits from great infrastructure. Employees can pick up breakfast at Tim Hortons on the way to work. And there's multiple high-grade discoveries, putting Goldterra on track to reestablishing Yellowknife as one of the premier gold mining districts in Canada. And that should do wonders for the stock price as well. So head on over to goldterracorp.com and sign up for their notifications now.
The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
We're a very red county, and last time, the margin for Trump was huge. In fact, our Brevard County was one of the reasons he won Florida, because it was such a dramatic margin. But the enthusiasm is definitely still here in terms of the activities that are taking place, like we were just talking about, spontaneous flag waves by grassroots people, things like that. The concern that I have, and it was the same as last time, is that even though in our county the Democrats are smaller. They're much better organized for some reason. And I think it's just and it's not just our county. I think other predominantly Republican counties experience the same thing. When you're used to always being ahead in terms of voter registration, there seems to be a tendency for the organization, the local party, to become relaxed, I guess would be the word.
Complacent.
Complacent. Yes, there you go. Thank you. Yeah. Yes, exactly. And so what happens is we have a very hungry Democrat Party here that is incredibly well organized, and they actually, during the primary, we lost one of our conservative school board members because the local Republican Party failed to execute, and the Democrats ran circles around them. And so, again, in our county, in this example, the good news is the offset, I guess, is a lot of our grassroots people are very aware of that, and they have taken it upon themselves. Like, we've got multiple Trump victory centers that are not affiliated with the local party or the actual Trump campaign, where we've had local people that, have money and facilities and things that they are able to donate. And so I know we've got an operation in Merritt Island that's doing phone banking and door knocking, and it's all grassroots, and it's not official Trump campaign, and it's not official Republican Party. So hopefully, that type of organizing will make up for the somewhat, like you say, complacency, I think, that our local parties experience.
Yeah, well, in Florida, two other major things that have been overlooked by the media and all the so-called pundits. The reason why Trump is really going to win by a far greater margin than he did probably in 2016, and that is that our governor, DeSantis, when he came into office, the first thing he did was fire the vote board canvasser in Palm Beach County and agreed to let the other one in Broward County retire in dishonor, and he appointed their replacements. So the idea of systemic vote fraud, which Palm Beach County and Broward County are notorious for, is not going to happen this time. It's going to be a big difference. Now, probably this election, those people will get voted out, and that'll be the end of that. But for 2020, they're not going to be able to play these games like they did in 2016 and 18, where during the governor's run and during the senatorial bid, they were out there like manufacturing votes or destroying them. Yeah, they found them in rental cars.
Yep. No, I remember I saw one of somebody had the cell phone video of the white van, it was like 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and this white van pulls up to the curb, next to one of the employee entrances to the supervisor's office down there. And, the guy just starts unloading these totes, with plastic totes with ballots. And the person that was filming was like asking them, and they're just ignoring them. Like, nothing to see here. Just
nothing to see here. Move along.
It's like, what are you doing? But no, that's a great point. I hadn't factored that in, and those are two significant counties. And quite frankly, I genuinely believe what happened in the last cycle was the reason Matt Caldwell lost to Nikki Fried for the ag commissioner race. I mean, there were some other factors in his campaign, but I honestly think that those two counties actually played a role in that, because I think what is Nikki Fried's? I can't remember. I think her home county is Palm Beaches. I think.
Not sure, but
it's one of those two. Yeah. It's one of those two. Like they had a vested interest in her because she was from one of those two counties. So.
Yeah, and they also the good governor fired Scott Israel, who was really the leading power broker in Broward County, the sheriff of Parkland high school shooter fame, did absolutely nothing to prevent it. All these factors are weighing in here, and I guess we'll just have to see. But that when you happen to see a Biden boat parade or a Biden trucker convoy caravan, or even a car caravan, if you happen to see one, call me up right away and send me pictures because I really want to see this.
That's right. That's a newsworthy event. Well, and that's the other thing too. I always enjoy when you hear the truck drivers or delivery guys that travel a lot. It's always interesting. They'll call into Rush or Hannity and they'll say, hey, as I'm traveling about, whatever their geographic area is, and they cover however many, however many hundreds of miles, they'll frequently say, I see, hundreds and hundreds of Trump yard signs and billboards and things like that, and almost nothing, at least in terms of yard signs and, like you say, grassroots support, basically nothing for Biden. So, again, I hope that's, representative of how things shake out. It is fascinating. And the one thing that I wonder, I think, in 2016, I know it was a surprise, at least in the presidential primary for sure, because a lot of the people, the pollsters are doing their thing, but they're calling likely voters. And a lot of the people that voted for Trump in the presidential primary in 2016 hadn't voted in like 20 years. And I always tell the story of literally on election day, I had to call an Uber driver because my car was in the shop and I had to go pick up my car. And as soon as the guy picks me up, he's like, hey, I'm Bob, or whatever his name was. And he says, I just got finished voting. And I said, well, no kidding. Who did you vote for? And he said Trump. And he said, that's the first time I voted in 20 years. And I was just fascinated by that. And so I had a very nice conversation with him about, well, what was your motivation? Well, he's a business guy. He's an outsider. He's not part of the machine. And so I guess what I'm saying is, I don't know that you're going to have a lot of people like that this time. You might, that aren't being factored into the equation. But I do think you've got people that aren't responding to the polls truthfully or not responding to the polls at all, not to mention the fact that they undersample the Republicans and so on and so forth.
Oh, agreed. For certain. And there's a lot more going on. In addition, the most accurate this guy out in Long Island, professor, who has gone back and predicted every outcome since 1912, which was the first primaries, found that the candidate that got the most votes in the primary variably went on to win. And the other thing is that no president was unopposed in the nomination process for re-election has ever lost. So you combine that, there's reasons to think that Trump's going to win. Personally, I won't get into my feelings about whether it matters or not. That we're going to have to find out. But in any event, so Matt, just tell us where to find you these days. RLC.org. That's the place? That's
correct. Yep. And you can find us on Twitter at Our Liberty Caucus.
Our Liberty Caucus. Great. And any questions or comments for Matt or myself, why don't you write us? Email address is kl@kerrylutz.com. Twitter feed @KerryLutz. Facebook page is Financial Survival Network. Matt, always a pleasure. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Yes, sir. Thanks so much.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.